stood out was talking about user awareness training, and several presenters actually discussed this topic. Wombat is one of them who spoke about Beyond the Fish, and it was a great presentation. It was my favorite. I almost wanted to watch it again. There's also a Beyond the Fish white paper available on Wombat's website. It has a lot of great statistics. Finding weak knowledge areas, what people actually know. And another thing that Wombat was really talking about is with their user awareness training, their ability to run tests on what users know and do this on a repetitive basis, is that there's actually a documented reduction in enterprise risk. And they were able to back this up with additional research. Saying that organizations that used the program were able to show that a certain percentage of users were clicking on things or experiencing exploits and phishing attempts before training, and then they ran a lot of the same tests again after training, and definitely showed that there was a reduction in click-throughs from these users. Another great aspect about the Wombat platform is that it's interactive, it's game-based. There's learning science involved. Wombat worked with Carnegie Mellon to develop their training program. It goes beyond just watching videos and nodding your head and calling it a day. It tries to keep the users clicking on things and making decisions and being very critical as to how they approach what they see coming at them, both during the training and in real life. So they want to keep it reflective. Another one was Proofpoint, email protection, seeing and securing. Now, Proofpoint is an email security platform. Now, really, email is the #1 vector that we've been seeing. Sure, they're network-based attacks. You got to have your firewall. You got to have your host-based security and the like. But in order for hackers to get into your network, this is still #1. People like to click on things. They'll get fake invoices. They'll get URLs going to phishing sites. They'll get fake emails coming from their bosses or leadership asking them to transfer funds or fill in information. And half of it is user awareness, understanding that that's not what you're supposed to do. Then the other half is having a good, solid email security to filter out a lot of this stuff before it even gets to the user. And that's Proofpoint's speciality, is to scan these emails, filter them, and make sure that a lot of these common exploits of the user are taken out. We talk about email threats being #1, but these are really attacks on people. Email is just a vehicle for bringing the payload to the user and trying to get them to do something. Guardian was another one that people spoke about. I wanted to put this one in there just because it's got a lot of tie-ins to other security systems that we work with. Guardian is a platform that is assuming that there's already authorized access within the network, legitimate authorized access. You've got trusted administrators and applications that interact with databases, interact with file shares, and although most of the InfoSec budget is applied on the perimeter, with firewalls and the like, a lot of times people ignore threats that already come from the inside. The IBM folks had a lot of great statistics showing that, sure, getting through the perimeter is the first step, but then once you're on the network, you're going to try and run laterally. And what can you discover? What can you leverage? Can you change a database? Can you read from a database? And Guardian's strategy is to know your users and know your data, first of all. Guardian can actually help with cataloging these things and then running behavioral analysis, monitoring and controlling access. If you see access from an administrator at 2 in the morning from an IP address that is not their typical workstation, that's something you can flag. And if you see excessive activity coming from an application, well, this application would normally do simple selects and inserts. All of a sudden, it does a select all for the entire table. That's abnormal behavior. Guardian has the ability to both detect and report on this as well as block it in real time if you choose to do so. Another great one was Silence, which is our choice for endpoint security. And I'm going to pass this over to Tom Bard, who is our endpoint specialist. He's going to tell you a little bit about this presentation.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Bard. I'm an information security engineer here at iSECURE. One of the things that I am actually tasked with at iSECURE is finding new and innovative products in the security field. We came across Silence a while ago, and because of what they're doing on the endpoint, really stuck out to us. They are actually one of my favorite products that I've found so far, and the whole reason that being is because of the amount of innovation that they've brought into their product in comparison to some of the other products that are being published out in this field as well. The biggest thing with Silence, innovation-wise, is the fact that they are incorporating machine learning into their product, and in contrast to how other vendors use machine learning in their products, Silence is actually taking and creating an algorithm for their product to detect the malware on the endpoints, which comes back to a signatureless detection for malware and any other unwanted or potentially unwanted software that might be getting or attempting to be installed on the endpoints. Another great thing about their solution is they focus on prevention over just detection and alerting you. So this is basically they're trying to prevent a piece of malware from ever executing on the system. So they tend to detect, or they do detect the malware pre-execution, so it will never actually get a chance to install anything on your systems. Another great thing too is their performance on the systems. Yes, pretty much all of the vendors will say this, that they have less than 1% CPU usage and they use barely any RAM. However, I've been able to witness this firsthand with Silence. They really do have less than 1% CPU usage, and at max they use 50 megs of RAM at a time. Go next. The next vendor that we had that is actually one of my other favorite products, and this is based on our network security platforms, is Fortinet. Fortinet, while in their presentation they did talk more so about the user education portion, they really didn't highlight how great of a product that they have for Firewall. Their Firewall product, FortiGate, is a highly scalable product which can go from your small branch offices all the way up to going into very large enterprises. They, of course, have all the functionality of any other next-generation firewall out there: AV, IPS, application control, URL filtering, user identification, device tracking, anti-spam features, and advanced threat protection. Now, the other great thing about FortiGate firewalls is when you scale them back to a small environment, they can actually act as an email gateway in addition to your firewall. So this comes back to a cost-cutting perspective and a more cost-effective solution for an environment that may not have a large budget. And we do offer a highly specialized deployment and jumpstart capabilities for our firewalls as well. What we can do is actually deploy firewalls out for you and assess your current policy set and be able to migrate that over accurately for your environment instead of, say, using an automated tool that might not actually accurately migrate your rule set for you.
Great, thanks, Tom. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about iSecure's services. We just heard from Tom, who was talking about firewalls. And Tom, would you say that you are a firewall expert who just took a huge swig of coffee?
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you very much. So, iSECURE is 100% security focused. We've been in this business for several years now. We actually came from a line of ISP and carriers, but as a business, we've been continuously owned and operated by the Warren family. I'm sure you'll hear from Annette Warren at some point in time, and you are current or future customers. She's really the best and is really focused on the customer experience. She wants to make sure that you receive everything that you need to as promised on time and feel good about it. We've experienced the expertise. We've been working in, we personally have been working with carriers since 1998. ISPs, networks, VoIP servers, pretty much you could name it, and I have touched it in my career. And that's really important because although I'm focused on security and have been for several years now, it gives me a really good perspective as to what makes an operation go. What is necessary for a network to function properly. It gives me the perspective of understanding that I can't come in and start recommending all of these crazy things that are way over and above, which is what is achievable for any given organization. Things have to be methodical, they have to be taken in steps, and they have to be doable. And it's a little dose of security reality that I like to take in my practice. In our product selection process, we bring everything in-house, we bang it around, we test it in our network, we click on all the buttons, and we want to make sure that it's doing what users, what the manufacturers say it does. We were joking around the office about one of the other products that we're currently evaluating, and we joked around about a marketing tactic known as putting lipstick on a pig. Basically taking something that's not too pretty, maybe gets the job done, but dressing it up nice and pushing it out to market, even though it might not be ready. We also vet the manufacturers. We want to know that they have the same commitment to the customer and to delivering a quality product as we do. Now, some of our specialties, and beyond a rather broad product stack that covers pretty much the entire security life cycle, the entire security architecture, is SIEM, Security Information and Event Manager, and also next generation firewalls, which are sort of from Tom about Fortinet. Now, with SIEM, we work with a couple of products. We work with QRadar. I've been working with QRadar since 2008. This was when QRadar was owned and developed by a company called Q1 Labs. They were since acquired by IBM, and I can honestly say that IBM has been doing good things with the platform, continuing to grow and expand it and add features, keeping it running well. They didn't break it. That's great. And another one that we work with, and is a fairly new product for us, is AlienVault. Comparing the two of them, QRadar is for, say 100 managed or 100 devices and up. If those are servers or firewalls or IPSs, if you've got approximately 100 more, that would be a good choice for you. 25 and up, although it can scale almost as large as QRadar, it is the AlienVault answer. Another couple of differentiators between these, if you're looking for SIEM and want to choose, is AlienVault is available for a software as a service, which means a monthly charge versus a large capital investment that might have to last for 3+ years. And then the other difference is that AlienVault is something we can offer a managed service for directly. We also have a very good managed service for QRadar, and both of those offer 24/7 incident response, investigation, managing the system, running your patches, integrating the log sources, tuning your rules, notifying you if things happen, and doing that first pass. In terms of more generalized professional services, we'd like to talk about a jump start, which applies to both QRadar and FortiGate systems. That's the process of taking you through entire life cycle of evaluating, selecting, scoping out a product, doing the design, doing the installation, and doing the fine-tuning for producing the rules, producing the configurations that make it meet your needs. And we won't just deliver a closed box off at your office and then leave. We'll open it up, we'll configure it, we'll get it in the racks, we'll walk you through the administration interface, and then make sure that all the configurations are entered in that will make it effective for you. On the assessment side, we can do health checks, taking the existing platforms and making sure that they're working properly and giving you the recommendations necessary, even doing some of the work to keep it moving forward. Security assessments, architecture review, coming through and sitting down with you, for really in-depth session, whiteboarding out what it is that you're doing for information security, what tools do you have in place, are they working well, do you have policies, procedures, do you have an information security program that's effective. Penetration tests and vulnerability scans. With penetration tests, first of all, we understand that we're not just going to come out gunslinging and blast away at your network. We want to make sure that, given your level of security maturity, that's an effective plan for you. Maybe more of an assessment is necessary at this point, or maybe you think that you're confident in how your network is locked down, and you also have regulatory requirements that require a pen test. Hey, then let's go. Set up the rules of engagement, and we'll see how things work out for you. And finally, vulnerability scans, and that's your basic tool-based approach. Fire up a scanner like Rapid7, Nexpose, and do the scan, see what comes out, do a discovery on your perimeter. And we can also do a fair amount of validation based on what we find. We all know that any of these scanners sometimes produce a lot of noise and false positives, and it's important to us to take the extra time to make sure that we've identified what is truly a risk and you communicated this to you effectively, right? So that's all of the slideware that we have for you right now. I wanted to open up the floor to Donna, who has been accumulating a list of questions. So thanks, everybody. Let's hear from Donna.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Tom. I'm going to open it up now to questions. Please, again, we encourage this to be an interactive session. Even if you think something may not be worth asking, it might be valuable to someone else. So please feel free to go ahead and type those into the chat box and Q&A. I do have just a couple so far that have come in, so I'm hoping more come in. Here's one. This is probably a common question. We find that where our employees are clicking on attachments, opening emails that they shouldn't be, what would you suggest? We've done a few presentations upon hire, but nothing sticking.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It's definitely important to do your first pass of training as people are hired. I'm sure you have acceptable use policies and user handbook, employee handbook that describes all this stuff, and they can sign it, and then you give them a desk and a key and a password, right? But yeah, you're right. There are a lot of folks out there who are a little bit jumpy when they see things come through. We all talk about invoice.exe. It has been in a couple of the presentations, and although that's a pretty direct and brutal attack, it still makes it through a lot of the time. And two factors that we discussed already is first is a more engaging and innovative training platform. Is if you say you'll put together a book of do's and don'ts policies, those don't necessarily relate to real user behavior. So an education program is important. You can do a couple presentations, but it's not to say that your own internal presentations are bad. Maybe they're great. Well, keep them updated, keep them interactive, and as we mentioned, Wombat can automate or provide a lot of that to you as a service. And of course, good email filtering is the other piece. If you've just got some really basic email filtering sitting out there, a lot of people are still using filters that are focused on stopping spam, but not necessarily stopping actual attacks. So that's the other thing is look at some newer stuff and make sure that you're trying to stomp out a lot of this before it even gets to you.
Cool. Another one. So we are looking into doing some penetration tests, vulnerability tests on our network. What does that entail? How should I decide between the two?
Okay. Well, our penetration tester is actually sitting in the back of the room wearing a hoodie. I'm going to see if he wants to answer that question.
Yeah, sure. Let me pull back the hood here. Yeah, so obviously to identify the state of security of your assets, you need to do some active testing. Certainly when you build a system, you build it as secure as possible, but if you don't test it, you really don't know the security state of that system. And even if it's built secure day one, as we all know, as we get the emails about patches that are released for certain platforms and applications, the security posture of systems slip over time. So that's why it's a good idea to go about testing for vulnerabilities. Now, depending on where you are in your security maturity level, you might want to choose a vulnerability assessment over a penetration test. High level, the differences between the vulnerability assessment and the pen test is more scan-based in the vulnerability assessment arena, where you're just going to get an idea of where you are from a posture standpoint, give you a chance to remediate some of those vulnerabilities. And then as you become a little bit more mature from a security maturity model standpoint, that's when you want to maybe start getting into the exploitation / pen test space to really test out your security posture. At a high level, engaging us for penetration testing, we have a brief discussion about your objectives, try to understand your compliance obligations, talk to you about where you are in that security maturity model level. If you're in infancy, we probably would not shoot to start penetration testing of your environment. We probably suggest doing some vulnerability assessments and helping you to bolster your security posture. But certainly as you grow and become a little bit more mature with respect to security, that's when the time to perform penetration testing would likely be. As we go on the journey of coordinating a penetration test or a vulnerability assessment with you, we have a discussion about the scope of the test, how many assets are in play, are we talking about web applications, are we talking about infrastructure. We would then take that information, develop a proposal for you. Obviously, you would ratify the proposal, and then we would move forward into scheduling. And as part of the scheduling exercise, we would have a discussion about rules of engagement. In the rules of engagement phase, we talk about timeframes, swap contact information. We would provide you with the IP addresses that we would be performing the testing from. So when you see very strange and odd attack traffic coming at you, you'll know that it's our tests and not somebody else who's attacking you. We'd also discuss whitelisting our IP addresses from any type of countermeasure devices you would have in your environment. The reason behind that is we would like to test your infrastructure without the countermeasures in place so that you know what your posture is if your countermeasures should fail. And we'd also discuss how we go about notifying you when we identify vulnerabilities. Do you want to be, do you just want to find it in the report at the end of the exercise, or would you like us to discuss as we find, certainly if we find critical / severe vulnerabilities, we may want to get a hold of you prior to the report being written and delivered. Speaking of reports, what we would deliver in the report is at a high level what we found, why it's bad, and how to go about remediating it. And then we would schedule a debrief meeting and make sure everybody understands what was found, why it's bad, and how to remediate it.
Great. Thank you. Next one I have here, and then I think we're slowing down. So please, again, feel free to type in any questions. You can send them to me directly, to the host, to iSECURE, to Kevin, or you can just type them in general in the chat to everyone. I have one about Firewall. Tom. We're considering firewall replacement. You mentioned Fortinet. Anything specific about their product you endorse or like?
Well, really the best thing about Fortinet is the ease of usability and ease of configuration. A lot of new firewall vendors are coming out with, or a lot of firewall vendors are actually coming out with very easily configurable web interfaces, and that's actually one place that Fortinet does excel. So converting over to a Fortinet firewall from any other vendor would be very easy, and their interface is actually very logical in construction as well. Other than that, all of the features within the FortiGates are fairly sophisticated in comparison to any other firewall out there. A lot of top enterprises and corporations use Fortinet as their firewall, and it's for the purpose of the performance that it has and the fact that the technology that's put behind the firewalls is extremely advanced. Other than that, yeah, there's really no reason to convert over to FortiGates. I like FortiGates.
Cool. Thanks, Tom.
I actually have two more, and they're both SIM-related questions, so I'm just going to combine them. Kevin, so you can address them separately, though, if you want. We don't have a SIM budget, but really need more insight into our network was the first one. And then the other one is we do have QRadar, great tool, but don't have the resources to give it the attention it needs. So suggestions for both of those.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, those are definitely two separate questions, but I'll answer them one at a time. So the first thing is about not having a budget. Well, I mean, it depends on you know, how big of an environment you're looking to look at. You know, no money, big problem. I'm trying to remember what movie that's from, but there are other ways you can get into some functionality without having to break out, you know, a large capital purchase. You know, like QRadar. You know, you're looking at, you know, sometimes $100 grand just to even get into the game. And I understand that's a huge spend. With other platforms, for example, the AlienVault system is still a very good SIM product. You know, there are some minor differentiators between AlienVault and QRadar, but the most important one is that there is a monthly software as a service engagement that can be put into play. So, you know, without having to commit, you know, $100 grand in cash right down on the table, you can get into it for, you know, much less, and you can break it out on a payment basis. You can turn it into an operational expense. You know, all of those things can make it much more approachable. Now, the second question is, okay, I've got QRadar, and it's rocking and rolling, but it's a little bit much for me to keep up on the maintenance and tuning. Managed services is probably going to be the answer to you. For both the QRadar and the AlienVault platform, we offer managed services, which is covering the maintenance of the box, making sure your patches are installed, making sure that you have all the coverage of your security devices and log sources, making sure that the tuning of the rules, you know, the rules are the logic that causes a SIM to fire off an alarm when it detects malicious behavior or something bad happening on your network. Those rules need constant tuning, you know, based on your environment, based on the security, or based on the threat posture that's coming in at you. And then the last really good thing about managed services is it gives you another set of eyes. It can give you 24/7 coverage. So when that alarm starts ringing off at 2 in the morning, who's going to look at that? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be someone from your team? Or is it going to be a managed service provider who's actually staffed up to handle this? and respond. And they'll see the alarm, and they'll start sniffing around, trying to determine if it's real or not, look at your logs, coming from other devices, perhaps. Is this something that's spreading? Is this a real red alert, or can it be deferred for more investigation? Is it just something that's a little bit spun out and someone can take care of it in the morning? You're doing that investigation, doing the notifications, and clearing off of your plate so you don't have to jump on everything that twitches on your network is also a huge benefit to you. So yeah, what can we do with this then? Well, we can get it into on a monthly service charge, which is a lot more approachable than a large capital expense. And we can also take over a lot of the human resources expenses of needing to maintain your own staff of analysts that are available 24/7. And both of these things can increase the value of having a SIM and get you the results you need while costing less in the long run.
Thank you. I am not seeing any other questions at this time. So please speak now or forever hold your peace. Well, we got these guys as a resource right now. Type in your questions, the Q&A or chat. In the meanwhile, I'm going to just go over some of my closing thoughts here. iSECURE is hosting some cybersecurity and Star Wars events for our Western New York folks, December 16th. Stay on the alert for that on our website for more information and registration coming up in the next few weeks. For everyone outside of Western New York, we've got some great things coming up right in the beginning of the year for you guys. So we always take pride in doing some great educational events and making them fun in the meantime. For everyone who needs proof of attendance for your CPE credit, please feel free to email us at events@isecurenet.net and requesting the CPE certificate. We'll have that over to you by early next week. If you've enjoyed our avatar videos we've been playing throughout the week, please follow us on our Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, or Instagram we have now, so you can enjoy the rest of that series. And if you have any other questions that you haven't thought of during today's session but you want to ask following up, please email me or info@isecurenet.net, and we'll make sure that we have the appropriate person respond to you on that. Last but not least, you'll be getting a survey today from our SurveyMonkey about your webinar week experience. Please, please, please reply and share open and honest feedback on what you thought about this week's presentation so we can always improve them and make them better. That's all I have. I don't see any other questions coming in on my end, and I think we'll call it an early session. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, our dark and hooded pen tester over there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this week and hanging tight with us all week. We truly appreciate it and hope you have a great Friday and a great weekend ahead. Thanks.